Welcome to Beyond Tech, where innovation meets insight. We're your hosts, Jennifer Palumbo and Jackie Slaght.
Today, we're taking on one of the most misunderstood topics in the industry, MES, or Manufacturing Execution Systems. If you've ever heard, it's too big, it's too rigid, or we're not ready for that yet, this episode is for you.
To help us separate fact from fiction, we're joined by someone who lives and breathes MES every day, Dominique Telfort, Director of MES at eTech Group. He's seen every misconception in the book, and he's here to break down what MES really does, what it definitely doesn't do, and why these myths hold so many plants back.
Let's get started with our first myth. Dom, I'm sure you've heard this before, probably many times, the myth that MES is too big for us.
Thank you, Jennifer and Jackie. And I know Shondell, she's in the background, so I want to send a big shout out for her as well. So, guys, this is a great topic because MES is one of those technologies that almost everyone knows they need, but very few people they don't really feel confident about it. Okay. And to tell the truth, it's like, most of that hesitation that I see about is not about the technology itself, right? It's more about the misconception around it. So I'm definitely gonna look forward to show you guys, why it's too big, why they think, it's too big. But first, I'd like to frame, to be upfront and trying to explain to you what is MES, and then we can jump into your first question here. So MES, I think, sometimes, customers, they think it's a software decision, okay? But in reality, it's not, right? It's more of an operational decision, right? Because it touched almost every layer of the S95. Okay. So what is MES really? I will call it the bridge. It sits on level 3. What it does really, it's basically, it connects the business intent, in a manufacturing plant. I want to produce, this amount of tablet, for example, right? So it connects the business intent to the shop floor, which is the shop floor execution, where things happen. So the machine are also connected. All right. And when that layer is broken or it's not working properly, that's where I can tell like the confusion is coming from. Okay. So now, too big. Okay. I think this is one of the most common one that I hear, out there. Right. And to be fair, it's used to be true, because again, in the past, yes, mean large, huge, multi-year enterprise deployment, and the smaller company, they couldn't approach it because it was so expensive. Okay. But nowadays, it's no longer how the next gen or modern MES work. So now you can start MES in a modular way. You can start small, one workflow, or probably one line of just one use case. You can just start like that, right? For example, I've seen company, starting something like a logbook, just a simple logbook that was on paper. Now they make it digital, and then they can see measurable value. Okay. So in reality, MES is only too big when you try to do everything at once.
Just like some more clarifying, and I appreciate you taking a step back and describing MES for us before we kind of dive in. Is this something, it sounds like, because we're talking about myths around, is it a good fit for my facility, that manufacturers don't consider it to be a need to have part of their stack? Is that correct?
Not really. It's not like a need not to have it. So sometimes what happens is like, especially like in a regulated environment, they use a paper document to document the manufacturing process. Okay. And then by doing so, that's the way they used to do it for years, right? It's easy for the operator, but again, they're missing a lot, right? Especially when you get when the FDA basically call you out because of some issues and you have to pay, like I saw like a company paying almost $5 million because of deviation exception. Remember, you're making drugs for patient, right? So these have to be well documented. So, that's where, the MES is needed instead of, using the
So
paper
yeah,
document.
anything in the way of track and trace, MES is going to need to be a crucial part of the tech stack.
Absolutely, especially track and trace, like for example, that tablet that I was telling you about, we need to know the details. What were like all the different materials that was included in that tablet, in
Right.
that medicine. So this is really, really important.
Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to this a little bit already, Dom, but our second myth is that with an MES, they'll lose operator flexibility. And I think you spoke a little bit about this is just the way that we've always done it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think this one is super interesting. And to tell the truth, it's more perception. Okay. I can tell like it's a perception out there. So you know, the operators sometimes they feel it will restrict them, but actually, MES will help them remove any type of ambiguity that you have in the process. Because think about it, you're on a paper document, you're flipping pages back and forth, right? Because again, the SOP that you're using telling you to go to page 17 and then get that temperature and then come back and things like that, right? But that's where like they create a lot of deviation and exception. Now that is something that is critical in regulated environment because again, like the drug you make in medicine, that has to be well documented. You don't want to go out of, you don't want to make a deviation in the process. So what MES does for them, it will basically provide guidance. So now you're not flipping pages. The system that the operator is using, it's a smarter system. So it walk them through. It's like your GPS in a car, right?
Right.
Your Google map kind of, right? That's what it becomes. So MES will give you the guidance, the structure, the guardrails, and also it doesn't really eliminate the decision making. That's the question you're asking, right? In fact, what really happened, the operator become more confident because you have that Google map with you. You have that navigator telling you where to go. And then in case you go out of spec, the system will tell you like there's a problem. And in real time, you can call your quality person and then they can take action in real time. So with the MES operator, they are more confident. They don't rely on their memory or the tribal knowledge. So you call operator 2, do you know how to do this? No. Now you have a system that make you follow process that tells you like, hey, you have an exception. Your temperature should be within that range. You're out of range, and things like that. One thing that I also see is like resistance, like because you've been working on an operator, they've been using paper for so long. Now you bring them, you tell them like we're about to use a system. They don't like that, right? But again, one thing that with this we do here at eTech is in the entire implementation process, they are part since day one. And then, they don't get trained at the end. They are trained while we are building the system. And I know they are working, right? But we try to do like what we call the train the trainer. So one of them will be right there building the process together with us, and then they will learn. And I think, once they start using it, they see that really MES is protecting them instead of being like a headache.
Do you have a process that you go through when you are talking to companies about just opportunities to implement MES within their facility? I would imagine that you do some work with the operators or any other users just to kind of get buy-in from them. What does that process look like as you're helping companies vet, an MES solution?
Absolutely. So one thing I can tell you, like, it's like really the customer always want MES more than, a system integrator wants, right? What it is we like to find out what is your pain point. What is inefficient in your procurement process? So they will tell you all that information. So one thing that we offer, a package that we're building here, it's called the MES assessment, where we sit down with the customer. There's around like 250 questions that we go over all those 250 questions. We cover the entire S95 to see, if you need to be fully integrated and things like that. But first thing where we really want to start is like, what is your pain point? What you're trying to achieve, right? And then once we have that, we are able to gather all your artifacts. We talk about your processes, the stakeholder, people who are involved, the equipment, the type of ELP you're using, and then do you want to be fully integrated? So do you want your MES to communicate with your ELP system and also communicate with your equipment? Remember what I told you at the beginning? So it's the middle layer. But sometimes, remember I told you we start small and then we can start building. But I like to, from that assessment, I like to build the entire system, high level, and then we generate a roadmap. Usually it's like a 12 to 24 month, and then we implement it by phases. So you see, like I'm basically covering MES too big, too. You remember the first question too.
Yes.
So basically we're covering assessment, and then from the assessment we come out with your maturity level, where you at. Are you fully paper? Are you just MES, a paper on glass? Are you fully integrated? And then are you ready for the next level, which is the digital transformation?
So you're not saying, hey, we need to fix everything all at once. It sounds like you're
No,
saying, hey, let's look
not
at
at
what
all.
your needs are. Let's look at what like some major pain points are, and we can actually build a plan that works for you in the facility.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, any implementation, it's, I can be the expert, or my team, they can be the expert, but we are solving what they're looking for. We are solving their needs. We are solving the pain point, right? That's what we do. So basically, really, we need to know what they want to do.
So really designing the solution around,
Designing the solution, yes.
it's not a one size fits all, but just custom to what their priorities are or their pain point.
100%. Even in my proposal, like if I'm writing a proposal, it's not going to cover only cost. Okay. I like on any, proposal that I put together, I like to solution. I like to provide solution. So that's why first thing I need to know your pain point, what you try, usually the RFP that they provide has all that information, right? So you have to really make sure that they fully understand, the solution around how to solve their pain point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that I think that's a nice segue into another myth, which is, hey, if we're going to implement MES, we really can't afford the downtime to implement it. I think you can speak more to this, but sounds like based on like a phased approach, designing the right
Yeah.
solution, not only can you justify the cost, but you might be able to control the amount of downtime.
I think, Jen, you nailed it, right? So again, as I said, modern MES is phased. So it's not like you just shut down the entire plant and then you're putting something together, right? Like you're putting a brand new one. No, that doesn't work like that, right? So after the assessment, we know where you are. We know, for example, which process bring you more value. Because again, return on investment, it's a big deal for these customers, right? They need to make sure that the huge investment they about to put into an MES system, they will be able to make a return out of it. They become profitable. So what we do really is after that assessment, we know which process is more impactful. If we can change that, how long it will take, how many resources who's going to be working on that. And then what we do, you can run your system in parallel, like your old system and the new system, right? Maybe that you take one step small and then you start running fast, right? So again, what I like to do is like really changing your question to why not implementing it, right? Because like if you don't implement MES, you are
Yeah.
losing big time, right? Your review process. Remember I told you the review process, they were on the paper putting information about the manufacturing. So when you do a review, you go page by page. It's time consuming. 2 weeks of revision. Now, when you're on the digital, remember I told you we are working on a process, and then whenever you have to do some check and checking deviation, we already know what works and what does not work during the manufacturing process. So now the revision just focus on what didn't work. Because again, we have a system that is validated, the process has been validated. Now, when they doing research, not research, when they're doing review, they just focus on what didn't work during the execution. So really, downtime, I don't think they should take it as a myth. Downtime is not even going to create a myth because you can go in parallel. It doesn't exist, right? I think the real lost opportunity is not having an MES.
One of the things that you're saving with implementing an MES is time savings, but are there other hidden costs that a manufacturer can run into by not implementing an MES system?
So if you get fined by the FDA, that's a big deal,
That's
right?
a big one.
That would be your investment right there. So it's really, speed to market, right? You make drugs faster, you can sell it faster. So that's, so not implementing it, it's a problem. And then also like, let's say you're on paper, you basically putting data on a piece of paper. But having an MES, the data goes into a database, right? So remember I told you that assessment, we check if you're on paper, if you just have a paper on glass, or are you fully communicating with other system, or are you ready for digital transformation, right? So now when you have a MES, it's fully integrated. You have your data stored somewhere. Now you can think about predictive analysis. You can talk about digital twin. You can talk about dashboarding. You can do a lot of different things because now you have the data. So again, people need to move, not people, I mean, company, they need to move forward with MES big time.
That makes sense. I guess let's kind of go a different route with another myth, which is that MES replaces SCADA or PLC systems.
Right, right. So that's another major one. Okay. And the reason is that sometimes I even see automation fighting with MES or things like that. And it's not at all the same thing, right? So, anytime I'm doing like a project, so ERP, right? There's ERP, there's MES, there's automation. Okay. Automation, it's what is happening like on your equipment, what are they doing on the shop floor during the manufacturing process. Okay. MES, it's the basically all of the different steps to go to those process using those machines. Okay. So basically what the MES does, it gives you like visibility of what's happening on the shop floor. The machine, they are, growing cells, for example, in a bioreactor, they are capturing temperature and things like that. But with the MES, you are able to visualize, like you are at that step when those cells were like growing, the temperature was that value. So that's where the integration is done. So really, the MES gives you the visibility of the manufacturing process. And then, the automation, it's more about your equipment, like a bioreactor or any other equipment.
So SCADA and PLC is more about controlling the process.
Controlling the
Exactly.
process, exactly.
Manufacturing execution system, as you said, kind of gives you that big picture view.
That big picture view of every step in the
Makes
process.
sense. Makes sense.
Because again, for example, on a paper document, on a paper manufacturing process, right now, I mean, on a paper document, right, the operator will go to the
Mhm.
HMI, look at the value, and enter the value on that piece of paper during the manufacturing process, right? But now with MES or the digital solution, because they are not integrated, they will be talking automatically. So on that iPad or that terminal that the operator is using, they'll be able to see the value at point of use, which is something really that is really nice.
That makes sense. It makes me think of, let's assume that a company is considering an MES solution. They've probably already, hopefully, already have a SCADA solution in place, maybe a platform or a few different platform technologies that they're using. Can you talk a little bit about, like, what does that process look like? Do you choose the MES depending on what the company might already have in place, or would pretty much any MES integrate with any automation system? What does that look like?
So again, when you choose an MES, again, remember I told you about the pain point. We're talking about also, do you really want to be fully integrated? So we need to first understand what is the limit of the provider of the MES solution, right? Because again,
Mhm.
usually the customer already have the PLC in place, the SCADA in place, it's already there, right? So another service we do here at eTech is the MES vendor selection. So whenever like a customer, they want to implement MES, we'll be able to take a look at all of the different options that they trying to select, and we can do a study and find out on that SCADA, let's say that MES already have an in-house middleware, or it's easy to integrate it with your SCADA or your PLC, and then it will also take care of your pain point faster, right? We'll tell you this is the one to select. But usually, like most of those MES, they are able to do that because they study what kind of SCADA PLC that is out there, and I think any MES should be able to do.
Makes sense.
But again, we always study through an assessment, finding out what will work best for you.
You've spoken about how to get started and that we can go through a phased approach. So, one of the other myths that I'm assuming you've heard about is that, or heard from customers, is that they feel that they need to fix everything before they can think about getting an MES system in place. Is that true?
Right, right. That's a huge myth that really, holds a lot of company off. So basically it will make them not move forward because they think they need to look for what didn't work and things like that before they move forward. But again, I think it's a myth, right? I think not even I think it is a myth, right? Because again, MES actually, like if you're looking at the implementation life cycle, when we do the requirement gathering, the mapping, we go into each one of these processes, the process that you're currently using. We're trying to make it more efficient. We're trying to make it leaner. For example, like an operator used to go from page page 1 to page 15 and come back again and things like that. Now we can have loops because now it's digital. We can have loops automatically. It goes there. So sometimes you look at the executable batch record, paper batch record, or not using some part of the process. So you can make the process leaner. So what I can tell you, it's like I always tell people, like, that 80-20 rules, like the Pareto principle. You just go that way, right? So you find out, the MES, basically the implementation process, will not the software, right? What we do as system integrator, like that process will cover all of this. And then usually 20% of those inefficiency that we find out will basically give you will resolve like all your inefficiency when you go digital.
Yeah, so it sounds like, when selecting this, you kind of get a level set and have the opportunity to make a lot of things more efficient and get more information and kind of streamline the process.
Absolutely. And I think that's the requirement gathering and the process mapping. That's what really helped them make it. And then we also like to have, like, after even you go digital, we like to have a feedback loop, right? Where after every 3 months, we want to come back and double check to see if we can refine your process. So that's why you will see, like, MES software also need to have version control because you'll be on version 1 and then we find out we can make it better and then we give you another version and then we can upgrade you to the next
So
version.
it's probably not something to be treated as like a just plug and play and then just off you go, right? Probably requires ongoing thought and ongoing, I don't want to say maintenance, but like just an ongoing part of planning.
That was really in the past, like they just make it work, you go live and it's moving forward. But I think the industry is moving forward right now because of all the
Mm.
AI. And AI, the data structure, it's really important, right? To get, but again, people talk about trash in, trash out, right? So now what you really want to do is you want to work with someone who's going to be able to not only implement the right solution, but also they can, basically maintain whatever you build. And then also you can move into that digital transformation, which is the future. And then even AI on top of your MES.
Jinx. Mentioning costs and it does get down to like just some like real direct questions for the listeners about what it really takes to implement modern MES solutions. Like at least where you sit, what does a modern MES investment look like for a company?
In terms of
And in terms of dollars, like, I mean, a lot of people probably assume that this is a million or millions of dollars of investment, in an MES system. Is that accurate?
Right. Absolutely, it is. Because again, especially in the regulated industry, right? So right now, especially software, I think from what I've seen in the past, like a few years, like a long time ago, right? They were like really high cost, right? And then they were like long term. Okay. But now for software, because of those next gen, I see, I see, for example, we have like a good partner we're working with. I think it's called Next Plus that we're bringing on board. They are super inexpensive. But where things become expensive, it's more with the integration, the system integrator. Because again, customer want MES, but they don't have any idea of what they really want, right? So that's why the system integrator, it's time consuming. So you have to sit down with them, understand the requirement, map the process until you can have like the design spec, the functional spec, the configuration take times, and then the validation take times, and then go live, aftercare, the feedback look up I talked to you about, all these costs, and they take times. So that's where all the costs come. So you'll be able to see things from, for example, Tulip and Apprentice. These are all the systems. You'll be able to see pricing starting from the
Mhm.
285K all the way to the 20 million, $40 million easy.
Depending on how you scale it.
It's pretty expensive. Yeah. But again, like you can always approach it on a phase approach, right?
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I can appreciate the integrator, like the time to do the preliminary study and engineering and all of that time that the integrator spends. I mean, that's time that the business is not spending as much time doing it because the integrator is, of course, facilitating it. But how fast would you say plants can actually get value out of an MES system once they implement it?
I would say I would say right away. Because again, remember I told you about the deviation. the review by exception will definitely help you. Instead of going page by page now, you review just exception because MES cover the process. If you never had a stop during the execution, it means it's okay. No need to review that. But if it stop you for a supervisor or a quality review, we have a problem. So when things are over, we want to review. But sometimes it's only 3 or 10 certain things that we need to review. So that's already a value. And when we create the result of an assessment, will definitely tell like all of those return on investment, what you're getting, right? So again, the deviation, the batch release, now to release a batch that's faster. Back, with paper, you take time to review the paper document. So all these are things that bring a return on investment pretty fast for you.
This has been a really interesting and enlightening conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I don't have any more myths for us to cover. Do you have anything else before we kind of close out and go to my fun questions to close out that we should touch on?
So I'm not really sure I have many different things to talk about, so again, the things like I think I'd like to tell you, like, us here at eTech, we are making sure that we are changing the market. Again, there's a lot of system integrator out there, but what we're going to be trying to work this year and probably next year, it's making sure we build those tools that can be used at each one of the phase in the life cycle, and making sure we can provide better price and then give our customer the best consulting, and then making sure that we clarify myths for them, and making sure that they can use MES the way it's supposed to be used, and then move them into that digital transformation. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, this is, like I said, this has been great, and I have learned a lot from it, and I think you're right. It sounds like it really is something that you have to understand where you want to get to and what your goals are or pain points you're alleviating to make and design the best solution.
Right, right. And remember, when I told you like pain point, right? When we talk about the customer, about the pain point, that's already the return on investment. If you can solve that, right, you already help them out big time, because that's why they're looking for it, because they had that issue at the beginning.
So this is one of my favorite questions is if you could automate one thing in your life, what would it be?
One thing in my life really is related to work, right?
Personal.
Work or at home. Either way.
So right now I can tell you like it's work, because again I'm always at my desk and working, and especially like building a vertical, it's major, right? And then you want to make sure that you think about the competition, and you can provide something that the competition does not have, right? There's a lot of things I didn't even tell my leadership, right? I really want to see this as the first AI system integrator. So I'm working on many different tools where I'm trying to create my own digital twin. If you guys understand what I'm saying here. So I'm trying to not try. I'm testing right now. Requirement gathering agent. I have like a COO agent. Okay. I have a strategy agent. They all
Wow.
there, but they're getting better and better, So what I really want to do is like automate the entire life cycle. For example, the assessment, that's one thing. So what I want to do is like I spend one hour with the customer. Tell me not all your requirements, the big picture of what you want to do, your pain point, your integration priority, and things like that. And then I'll feed that to my agent, and then in real time, I can generate your maturity assessment output and a roadmap.
Well, that's amazing. That is, I feel like one of the most
Really,
ambitious and best
I have an
answers.
output that I think I can email it to you guys, so you guys can take a look if you guys want
I'll
to.
be so productive. Jen will give me more things to do. Okay. And then one of my other favorite questions is how would you describe your job to a child, like a 5-year-old, or I guess
So
you can
my
pick me.
job here at eTech, I think the way I'll describe it is it looks like it's my own business, to tell the truth, because again, what I do is really building a new vertical for MES here, right? And then I want it to be AI. And when I heard about, our CEO thinking about making us becoming the next AI company where AI is assisting everybody, I say, oh my God, okay, I can't keep that as a secret anymore. So I'm aligned, because again, like I was doing it in parallel and things like that. So I'll work on my stuff in work stuff in the morning. At night, I try to convert it into digital on my personal computer. But I think I'm in a good spot, right? Because again, and I'm using AI agent to basically code the solution for me. Okay. And again, I need to do a full test, end-to-end test to make sure that those tools are working properly. The output, so we don't have hallucination and things like that. So, but I'm excited. That's what I would like to do. Basically, now I can have my agent working for me, and or maybe sell the software, something like that, and I can retire.
That would be awesome. Okay, those are all the questions I have. I just want to thank you for joining us today and talking with us. My last final question is, what would you like to see us cover on future episodes of Beyond Tech?
The next one, I think we should have like probably like let's say we get the entire agentic system integrator solution working. I think we should provide like a small demo to our live demo, I would say. Or
Yeah,
maybe we can have it, we can have it not live, like something like this, and then share that with the public so they understand what AI system
That's a
integrator
fun
can do.
idea.
yeah,
All these tools.
that would be awesome. Well, that is all I have. Just thank you for joining us and sharing a little about
It's great
MES.
to have you on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, guys. Oh, thank you so much. And you guys are doing an
Thank you.
amazing job because education is one of the best thing ever. Educating the public so they understand what is a myth, what is hype. This is the best thing ever in 2026.